Avowed is a Game of the Year contender if we hopped in a time machine and went back to 2007. Thanks to Xbox for providing me with access to the game, and I gotta be real with y'all, I don't think this one was for me. It's a competent RPG, it's got depth, the visuals are okay, there's a lot of lore that I wasn't particularly compelled by, but I'm sure Pillars of Eternity players will thoroughly enjoy. But it's got a little bit too much of that Obsidian jank to it for me. You know what I mean? It's the same jank we see in Bethesda games, where they have these out-of-date systems baked into a bunch of new ideas, systems that don't respect the player's time. I'm sure some of you felt this playing Starfield. I don't think there's anything wrong with this. If you're into that vintage feel, great, but I personally needed something to carry me through the jank, be it some incredible gameplay, an undeniably gripping story, a satisfying RPG system, something. Nothing about this game stood out to me. Nearly everything Avowed does is just run-of-the-mill. I will say that they went all out making the narrative choices and dialogue very dynamic. How you respond to NPCs is crucial towards what quest lines you open and what obstacles you encounter while playing this game. And dialogue is a core mechanic of this game. You'll talk very long with a lot of NPCs, and each conversation will have you choosing 7 or 8 different dialogue options minimum, with some dialogue checks mixed in. So if you're in a conversation-heavy narrative games, you're gonna love this. The movement and combat was definitely secondary in this game, which bumped me out. It wasn't bad, but just serviceable. I definitely say don't play this game in third person, because when I did, all the attacks and moves felt very clunky, and when I switched it back to first person, it felt a bit smoother. There's a lot of different playstyles accommodated here. You can use ranged weapons, melee weapons, spells, and mix in party members to do moves as well. And again, the actual combat itself is not bad, but it still feels dated. It almost feels like I'm tied to sandbags to play games like Kingdom Come and Stalker, and then come to this. Not to mention, they could have definitely substituted a handful of fights with lizard dudes or bears with something else. The enemy variety was a little lacking. Give me a parry system, make guarding feel usable. Guarding in this game feels awful. You're gonna find yourself just evading most of the time. You guys know I'm big on combat, and while it doesn't have to always drive a game, at least make it fluid. In Avowed, it's just okay. It might have been feasible in the game, say, 10 years ago, but now no one's gonna look back at this game later this year and say, man, I wish more games had combat like Avowed. Probably the opposite. And then there's tons of minor stuff like the over-the-top labeling of things that cheapen the experience and break the immersion. Like here, why are we labeling crates that I can smash and loot? Just make them all smashable or not. Or here, I'm a vet playing games, so I can clearly understand that this is a red barrel that will explode if I strike it, an unwritten gaming rule. But it's labeled as if they want you to use a sword on it. So for a new player, I ain't gonna hold y'all, this is a strange feeling because I'm a fan of Obsidian games, but I don't remember them making these decisions before. I don't know if I've just grown away from the jank or if it's just very intrusive in Avowed, but it took me out. I don't know if I'll ever finish this game. There's this stigma out there that because Microsoft has done all this consolidation and budget cutting internally, that most of the Xbox-made games that come to Game Pass feel like old, medium rare cooked, cheaply made projects. And while recently titles like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle have evaded this stereotype, I think Avowed is one that folks are either gonna enjoy immensely or slap that old label on it. You guys know I don't usually like giving any more energy to games that I don't enjoy, but Avowed feels like an interesting case because it's coming from Obsidian, one of my favorite dev teams, and there's definitely some personal preference that came in while playing this that made me dislike it. This will probably be my least subjective review, but I had to stay true to how I felt playing it. If you love fantasy RPGs and you have Game Pass, this is for sure worth giving a chance. Maybe you'll play through the jank and enjoy it, but I would not recommend spending full price on this game unless you're a diehard Pillars of Eternity player or you're someone who is in desperate need of something that feels even a little like an Elder Scrolls game. Just a little. And those are my thoughts on Avowed. And now I think I'm gonna wait for The Outer Worlds 2 for my Obsidian fix. Yeah.